inside to Stevenson, up against Kaminsky, fucking good in the ball!
Mantel, all the way to the basket, foul, lays it in for two!
Good morning, high school basketball fans. Welcome to our first in-season edition of the Upstate Hoops Podcast here on Valentine's Day, Sunday morning, February 14th, 2021. I'm Jim Sinicropi here inside the FingerLakes1.com Mechanic Street studio. We'll recap the first week of action and take a look at the standings in all the Wayne Finger Lakes leagues. We'll look into the week ahead. We'll talk about what makes a good webcast, because there's a lot of schools, almost every school, live webcasting their games, and some of them are doing it for the first time, and there's some that are great and some that are not so good. There's some room for improvement as we head into week 2 here of a 4-week regular season. Of course, we'll take a look at the week ahead. We'll unveil our updated power rankings, which is something I'm excited about, because with so much action in 1 week, most teams playing 3 games in 1 week, there's a lot of movement for sure. The Upstate Hoops Podcast and all of our coverage of Wayne Finger Lakes High School basketball is brought to you thanks to the support of Generations Bank, Little John Orthodontics, and D. Santo Propane. Well, it's great to be back. As we're sitting here normally in a normal high school basketball season, we would be about ready to start sectionals right about now. I think the regular season would have ended maybe yesterday, and we would be having our sectional preview show in the studio. And just another thing, you've heard me if you've been watching our game night live webcasts this week, which have been a lot of fun. They're going to improve for next week too. I'll talk a little bit about that, but you've heard me say that coming at you from the FingerLakes1.com Mechanic Street studio. Now, Finger Lakes 1 didn't go out and purchase another property and construct a new studio. Mechanic Street studio is in my basement at my house, so I'm sitting here in my basement. That's where I've been doing those game night live streams from too. And on Sunday morning, why not just come down in the basement instead of going into the studio? Now, this won't be a permanent thing. Next season, we'll start having kids back in the studio and coaches, and we'll probably do a studio show for our sectional preview this back in our office studio in a couple weeks here. But for now, I'm going to do it from my house. And why not? It's cold outside. Weather moving in this week, too. That could cause an issue. One thing when they unveiled this new season of the new schedule and the plans, that you looked at and you said, geez, if they have like 1 or 2 snow days, this is going to screw up everything. It's going to be hard to reschedule. I mean, there's games every single night, Monday through Saturday. There's even a game today. Dundee and Honeywell, I think, boys are playing at noon or 1 o'clock today. So yeah, it's there's not much room to reschedule. And then what would end up happening when they do have to reschedule is you'll have a situation where a team is playing 3 games in 3 nights. Because the way it's working, you got the Finger Lakes East and boys, or Finger Lakes East and West boys and girls playing games on, like for instance, this week it was Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Next week it'll be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then you got the Wayne County teams playing last week on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. This week, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And so the only place to make up the games would be either on a Sunday or on their league's off day when the other leagues are playing. So it won't be easy in that situation, and we're looking like that situation could happen this week with a big snowstorm. They're calling from anywhere from 1 to 2 feet of snow Monday into Tuesday. But I don't know, let's wait and see what happens with that. But glad to be back. It's thrilling to see high school basketball. You know, even though we had to wait this long for it, and even though it's not the same, even though the gyms are mostly empty, and even though you can't go to, some parents can't go to away games, some parents can't go to home games. But, I've always been a glass half full kind of guy. So, for one, I'm glad that they're back. But number two, it's a unique season. So 4-week regular season, 1-week sectionals. It's almost like this is just one big tournament. And from a competitive standpoint, it's pretty interesting to cover it and see how it's going to play out. Every single game, obviously very important in a 10 to 12 game regular season that most of these teams are playing. And sectionals, normally everybody makes sectionals. So you can always say, well, we're going to get better. We can get better as the season goes on. It doesn't matter if we lose early as long as we're playing good in February. Well, there's no room for that now. Every game's important. You need to finish in the top 8 in your sectional classification to qualify for sectionals. And it's kind of unequal, as you'll see as we go on in the show. But it doesn't matter. Life's not fair. You got to be in the top 8. Every game's important right now. And not only to get in the top 8, but all higher seeds host the game. So you could host a sectional final game. So another reason why seeding is important. And you say, well, there's not many fans in there. Why would it, home field advantage isn't as much? Well, it isn't, but you're shooting in your gym on your rims. And in some cases, you're not driving, an hour and a half before your game. You just show up at your school like you would for any home game. So those are advantages. And the sectional blocks that they award and the banners that go up in the gym are just as real as the ones last year and will be next year and were 20 years ago. They're legitimate. It's not because of short season there's going to be an asterisk by them or anything. So Marcus Whitman, for example, last year won a sectional title for the first time in 46 years. And if they win one this year, they'll be back-to-back. And Lions, coming off 3 straight sectional titles. If they win one this year, that's 4. Who does that? Nobody wins 4 straight sectional titles. But Lions has a really good shot. Interestingly enough that I would say that because Marcus Whitman and Lions both in Class C1, so we could see a showdown, in the sectional final maybe, or a semifinal between those two teams, which would be awesome. Now, it would be, in the Atwood Gymnasium or Marcus Whitman. And speaking on the inequity of it all, Marcus Whitman's playing in the Finger Lakes East. Really difficult league, top to bottom. No nights off for any team, any night. There's you can lose any night against the first place team or the last place team in that league. Where Lions in Wayne County, a little easier of a schedule. So when they're both in Class C1 and Lions is accumulating sectional points, winning every night, Whitman might have a tougher time keeping up with them in terms of seeding. So if that C1 final between Whitman and Lions were to happen, it would probably be at the Atwood Gymnasium. Now, one good thing going for a team like Marcus Whitman is that they're the smallest school in the East at C1, playing B1, B2 in the case of Geneva, an A2 school. So you get more sectional points for beating those teams, and you lose less when you lose to them. But nonetheless, it's tough to envision a scenario where Lions loses more than maybe one game in league from what we've seen in week 1. And it would be hard to envision a scenario where Marcus Whitman didn't lose 2 or 3 games, maybe going through that tough East League schedule. So Greg O'Connor and his boys better maybe start making plans for a trip to Lions if they get to the sectional final, or semifinal, whenever they might meet. But there's other teams in C1. We're going to get to all that stuff and a whole lot more. There's the amount of basketball that's played in 1 week now under this new format and this new schedule is it's hard to keep track of it all because it's so intense. There's so many games in a week. But we're going to do our best here. But before we get to the weekly results, I just want to comment a little bit on what it's been like. I mentioned I'm a bit of an optimist, glass half full kind of guy, and one of the benefits, I think, of this particular situation in this season is that it has forced the hands of schools who are not able to allow full spectators, or in some case any spectators, into the gyms to webcast their games. So it's created a situation where if you're a high school basketball fan, like myself or a lot of people that I hang out with, every single game is available from the comfort of your own home. And you pull them up on your television. I mean, it's been unreal, really, to think about, that you could just go home after work at night and pull up any game you want, just the same way that you could if you had, like, the NBA ticket, or one of the cable packages where you can watch any game you want. And that part of it has been awesome. Schools are still working out some of the kinks, and sometimes the problem has been in just communicating where the games are. So there's been a case this week where we thought the game was going to be on a school's Facebook page, and so that's the way we linked it up. Turns out it was elsewhere, either on YouTube or other locations. But like I said, all that stuff's getting worked out. And as a viewer, one of the best ways that you can, there's a couple ways you can find these streams. You can go to the Section 5 website. Not the one where they have the scoring and the stats and the updates, but the main Section 5 website. You go to the schedule, and there's these little icons with a camera on it next to the game and the schedule if it's live, and that links to the live stream in most cases. Or go to Finger Lakes 1. We do those nightly recaps. So after we give the results from the week, underneath, or from the night before, underneath it says tonight's schedule. Every one of those games has a link next to it that says watch live. Click on it, and there you go. And that's true for boys and girls. And the other way is we've been doing, on Finger Lakes 1, we've been doing these game night live streams where if anybody's watched NFL Red Zone, it's very similar to that, where we're just popping from game to game. And that link is always at the top of our homepage, either at the very top when we're live or in the now streaming on Finger Lakes 1 section a few hours before, which would say, because we go up different times, different nights, like yesterday we did it from 1 to 5 p.m. So you can find that, and on that you'll have the player with the game night live broadcast if you want to follow along like that, or you scroll down and you'll see the schedule, the links there as well. So lots of place to get access to watch these live games. And so I hope you've been able to do that. I know a lot of parents have been forced to do that. Another benefit from this is not only are you able to, in most cases, see the varsity game, but you're able to watch the JV games too. And for us at Finger Lakes 1, that's pretty cool too, because when we have a situation, we're like, geez, I wonder who's coming up, next year for Gananda or South Seneca. You can go and watch the JV games. And in most cases, these are broadcasts that are going to be accessible, a long time from now. So, I could be on the golf course in the summer with somebody, and we could be talking, about the Geneva Panthers. And we could say, geez, who do they have coming up next year? And then I can go home later and find one of their broadcasts and check it out. So it'll make our coverage better, because it's always been a challenge. At Finger Lakes 1 or any outlet, I think, in this day and age, to cover high school sports, to get the facts or to do the research. So that became a lot easier. So with that being said, what makes a good webcast? I've seen some of the schools' webcasts have been amazing. Penn Yan's are probably the best. They pipe in the radio call from Lucas Day at WFLR Radio, who does all their home games. They have graphics. They have great camera angle, great video quality. Newark High School is another one where they'll do some play-by-play, but they also have a little bit of enhanced graphics, but a good screen, good view. And really, that's the most important thing more than anything else, is you got to have a good view of the court and an angle. And it should be a high-definition stream, nowadays. Nobody has access to more bandwidth than high schools. It's unbelievable. Trust me, we've been in there, doing games for years now, and when you plug into their internet and you do a speed test, it just skyrockets to the moon. So that's not an issue. And bandwidth usually is an issue when you're trying to push HD streams out of somewhere. Now, that's number one, the quality of the video. Number two, good audio. Announcers or no announcers, if you're watching a game with no audio, it's not the same. And if you're watching a game with, not a real high quality or crackly, or there's some audio issues, that's really annoying. But if you're watching a game with good video and good ambiance audio from the gymnasium, it's just like you're sitting in the bleachers. You got it up on your big screen in the living room, and you kick back, you watch the game, it looks good and it sounds good. And then a third thing that's extremely important is you got to know what the score is. You got to know how much time's left. So a lot of schools have either overlaid scoreboards like Penn Yan, or using these systems that a lot of schools have bought, they're able to superimpose an actual shot of the live scoreboard in the gymnasium in the corner of your screen. That's great. That's fine. That's all you need. Time, score, good quality, good audio, you're set. Everything else is extra. But there's a few schools out there that haven't been able to accomplish the basics so far. And hey, I know a lot of you athletic directors and coaches. We stream. We know a lot about streaming. So if you have some questions, reach out. Reach out to us. Send me an email. Give me a call. I have my cell phone. Give me a call. I'd love to help answer questions on, maybe how you can make your webcast a little better. For the most part, most of them are great. And again, a lot of them bought these systems from Huddle, where it's an automated camera, automatically goes live. They're even able to record, their practices and scrimmages. But it just, and modified games, JV games. So that's important. Extras, like I said, would be graphics, announcers. If a few schools have had PA announcers, even though there's limited attendance, they've had PA announcers. That helps the viewer at home too, because when someone scores and you hear the announcer say basket by so-and-so, that helps a little bit too. So then you can work in instant replays if you want, and there's a lot of extra stuff that you can do for sure. But let's get the basics right, and what we have is something that's pretty cool and that should be in place going forward now in the future. The ability from the comfort of your own home to watch any game any night. It's awesome. One thing that the one school, Gananda, is using NFHS, where that's a subscription service where you have to actually pay a subscription like pay-per-view to watch. And that kind of bothered me a little bit, and if I was a parent or a resident in Gananda, I'd be a little upset. You pay your school taxes and all this stuff, and now you got to pay a subscription to watch your live stream of your high school game. I paid it because I want to watch Andrew Gabbard in Gananda. But the one thing about NFHS that I don't like either, I mean, there's a lot of things I could get into. There's this, they hold the rights to the postseason games and Section 5, the video rights, and I don't like when you sign up that you can't, it auto renews. So, I got to remember when the season's over to go in and cancel it. I have a feeling that won't be the most streamlined process either to cancel, but I hate that when you sign up for something like that, and they should give you the option to re-up in a month if you want, or if you don't, then you shouldn't have to take an action to cancel. But regardless, that's kind of the lay of the land with live streaming, and it's awesome. And not only that, you want to watch the Minders Newark game, and you can't get home in time, so the game started at 7:30, you get home at 9:30, the game's over, you can pull it up and watch the whole game, on demand. So it also leaves open the possibility for us to be able to pull in highlights and do more good stuff on this podcast and on our live broadcasts, not only for the remainder of this year, but as we go forward. Was considered even doing more now, but let me tell you, this was a crazy week to see how it would play out, to see what it would be like, to see how we could incorporate these streams and bring you the game night live broadcasts that we have, and they'll be better next week. We learned a lot this week, and we'll make some changes. We already have a little bit. But next week should be better. And there's a couple nights where it's just going to be awesome because of the caliber, some of the matchups and some of the games. But with that being said, time to get into the real reason why we're here, and that is to talk about the week that was in high school basketball and the week ahead in high school basketball and give you our updated power rankings. But before I do that, I do want to just step aside real quick, hear from our three main sponsors here on the Upstate Hoops Podcast: Generations Bank, DeSanto Propane, and Little John and Barbie Orthodontics. Now, these sponsors have been with us for years now. They love our coverage of high school basketball, and they make it possible. So I hope that you appreciate, what they do for our student athletes just by helping us cover them. So we're going to step aside for a couple minutes. When we come back, we're going to take a look back at the last 6 days to Wayne Finger Lakes high school basketball. It's the Upstate Hoops Podcast on FingerLakes1.com. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
Generations Bank is celebrating 150 years of serving and supporting our hometowns. Visit mygenbank.com for the best choices in checking, savings, home equities, mortgages, and much more. Generations has been the Finger Lakes Bank since 1870. Generations Bank, member FDIC. Dr. Littlejohn, Dr. Barbie, and their outstanding orthodontic team share a common goal: to ensure the overall wellness of each of their patients through their exceptional orthodontic care. Dr. Rod Littlejohn and Dr. Liz Barbie are proud to support our area high school athletes. Check out Dr. Rod and Dr. Liz online at littlejohnortho.com.
DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info. DISANTO Propane.com, or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574 today. DeSanto. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane.
At FingerLakes1.com, we have always pledged to you to bring the most comprehensive local news coverage, access to timely information, and a locally focused, entertaining media option. Support FingerLakes1.com and help us bring you more great local sports coverage like this by visiting patreon.com/FL1.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It's the Upstate Hoops Podcast. I'm Jim Sinicropi, and I don't know how long this show is going to go because there were so many games this week. It's unbelievable. So we better jump right into it here. And let's go back to Monday. We'll go right in order and take you through some of the games this week. So it was a Wayne County opening night on Monday night. Clyde Savannah beat Sodus. Lions beat North Rose Wolcott. And here was a bit of surprise. Williamson 45, East Rochester 38. Williamson is improved. Williamson's back, I think, on the map. And the program's on the rise. This was not a great look for East Rochester to start the season, but as you'll see as we go through the week, they did bounce back, and Wayne County should be, you take Lions out of the picture, Wayne County is pretty competitive as it's been in a few years, I think, from teams like, 2 on down. Good to see Marion on the court, Gananda with a win on Monday night against Marion, and then it was time on Tuesday night for the Wayne Finger Lakes teams. Again, these are the boys' results. We'll go through the girls as well. HAC with a win at Red Jacket. Now, Red Jacket lost a lot to graduation. They went all the way to the sectional final. Matt Record, Chase Rizzo and company all graduated. They're kind of in rebuild mode, but HAC's got a solid team. Miners Academy boys, a lot of excitement to see that group. They have a lot coming back, almost everybody coming back to that team. And they got a win at Penn Yan, which I was impressed with the 14-point margin in this one. Penn Yan's pretty solid as well. Mason Coover was out this game for Penn Yan, but Coach Dan Doyle, I think, has a pretty solid team, and these Minders, Penn Yan, both B2 schools, so potentially could meet in the postseason as well. But Devin Gerhardt's been playing great. As I mentioned, Coover was out for this one. Dominic Lafferty, Griffin Emerson, good, solid team in Penn Yan. And Minders, of course, being from Seneca Falls, we're going to talk a little bit about Minders too as we go on, but a good opening win. And then here it was, the next game you see on the screen, Marcus Whitman and Newark. Marcus Whitman's first Finger Lakes East game, taking on the Newark Reds. There was a lot of anticipation for this one. Marcus Whitman coming off that sectional title last year, bringing back a whole bunch of key contributors, including Jordan Lehue at point guard. And they didn't disappoint right out the bat. Lehue, 6 first half three-pointers. Ends up winning. Whitman wins 59-54 at Newark. Tough week for Newark, although they're down their sophomore sensation, Rayshawn Howard, did not play. Quarantine issues based contact tracing. We all know how that goes. So that's unfortunate. When that happens to a basketball team, it could totally derail your season, because we're talking about a short season. If it happens within a team, it could shut the whole team down, and we're just keeping our fingers crossed. We saw situations like that in the fall. The most one that comes to mind was the Palmac girls soccer team, probably easily the best girls soccer team in the league. And they didn't get a chance to compete for a sectional title because they had a case of COVID, and through contact tracing, etc., people having to quarantine, they sadly weren't able to compete. So I hope that doesn't happen to any basketball teams this year. So just try to stay healthy out there. But big win for Marcus Whitman. It was like, yes, we can compete in the East. We just went on the road and beat Newark. Waterloo Palmac. This one was shocking. And a lot of times you get a little shocked this time of year because we really don't get to see a lot of you don't get to see anything before the season starts. Sometimes you hear about scrimmages, or this group of kids beat this group of kids in summer. Didn't even have that this year. Palmac coming off a rough year last year. Waterloo coming off one of their best years in their school in 20, 30 years, going all the way to the sectional final in the Blue Cross, losing at the end in a 9 a.m. tip game at the Blue Cross Arena to Geneva. Waterloo was that close to winning their first sectional title since 1972. Now, we knew they lost a lot. Julian Ruiz, Mike Hubbard, Joel Kraft, John Lawrence. But we also knew they had a lot coming back. Kyle Saluka back, Brian Oddie, Devin Felber. You have Saluka's younger kid, brother, on the team as well. And Coach Tim Darnell, I think, will get these guys improving as the season goes on. But Palmac, to beat them by 17, that was shocking. And good for Palmac. It was only a few years ago that they were in the sectional final themselves in an all Finger Lakes East championship game against Newark. But, looking at this Palmac roster and then looking at the games that they've played since this one on Tuesday night, you got the Goodness brothers, Paul and Ian. Paul's a junior, Ian's a sophomore. John Blasey is one of the lone senior contributors. But they've got a lot of young kids. Robert Kinslow is a sophomore. Sage Hunter's a sophomore. Ethan Eli's a sophomore. Alex Wooten's a junior. Quinn Nolan is a junior. I mean, this is a really solid group that Coach Trevor Sanders has at his disposal. And they made a statement win in the opener for sure. And then this was weird. East Rochester went to Livonia and played an out-of-league game. I didn't know there was going to be any out-of-league games, and I don't know exactly how that works into sectional point standings. I assume it counts just like any other game. So I don't know if any other schools, I haven't seen any other schools with really any cross-league games going on. But yeah, tough start to the season for East Rochester. As you can see, they lose their first 2 games in the first 2 nights of the regular season. And then here, we talked about off the top, a situation where a team could play 3 games in 3 nights. Well, it happened to East Rochester as you look down to Wednesday as we move ahead. Sodus. Sodus is one of those teams that can pop up and beat anybody, and they give Lions and Clyde trouble sometimes. But now Williamson with a 2-0 start with a nice 52-46 win. And then you have the best rivalry in local high school basketball. Lions going to Clyde. That game has never been played in front of less people than it was the other night on Wednesday night. Usually the gym is overflowing and they're selling tickets, but Clyde hung with them. There was some chippiness in the game too. That's not uncommon as well in the Lions-Clyde rivalry. It was not actually from the players. I saw it more from the coaches at one point. But Lions with a 74-58 win, and that was expected. Clyde has great players in Cam Chance and Jaden McKinney, but this Lions team is outstanding. Justin Smith had 38 points in this one. 38. J.C. Walker, sophomore, dealing with a issue with his hand, was limited, still had 12 points. And Jaden Battle had 12 points. And that's not even naming some of the guys on this roster that should sound familiar to you. Like, actually, hold on, let me pull this out here just so I don't miss anybody. Yeah, Jarrell Petty's back. Nate Henry's back. Jaden Lopez, a sophomore up, is looking good this year. They're excited about him. Horace Betts, the 4th. Jatez Barber, Amir James. 4 straight sectional titles for Lions this year. Certainly a possibility. Let's scroll this up for you a little bit here and get a more look at Wednesday. East Rochester does bounce back with a win against Merriam. Gananda beats North Rose Wolcott. And Romulus and Bloomfield in the West in action. And nice win to start the season for Romulus. Moving ahead to Thursday night. And the East-West nights are the nights where you're getting more games just because you're talking 2 leagues playing instead of 1. South Seneca boys go down to Vine Valley and beat Naples 69-51. And this South Seneca boys team had a nice week. Nick Hauk had 23 points in this one. Ira Rahman had 23 points, 11 rebounds. It's good to see good basketball in the South County on the boys' side of things. It's been a girls-dominated world down there in Romulus and South Seneca County. Going back to 2012 when Romulus won the state title and then South Seneca went to the state Final Four multiple years. So good to see the South Seneca boys program having some success for sure. And that's got to make Coach Doug Baker happy for sure. So also I should mention that South Seneca game. There's a kid named Ryan Lester for Naples that's going to be putting up big numbers all year. Even in the loss, he ended up with 30 points in a losing effort. Then you see Bloomfield bouncing back, beating HAC behind 12 points from Cooper Willie. And then another challenge for Marcus Whitman in the East, playing a team that they play regularly because they're cross-town rivalry game. Marcus Whitman's in Gorham. Penyan's in Penyan. But Marcus Whitman cruised to the win in the opener at their new renovated gymnasium that looks really great. Can't wait to get out there. Jordan Lehue, 22 points and 10 rebounds. Noah Hildreth with 13 and Connor Tomian with 11. Aiden Royston, 9.7 rebounds as Whitman moved to 2-0. So now Newark looking to bounce back. Shorthanded, has to go to Geneva. And Geneva's tough, and Geneva won easily, 73-54. Devin Martin, 34 points in that one. We'll talk about the Panthers a bit coming up. Red Jacket at Honeoye. Honeoye gets the win. Jack Reynolds, 25 points and 13 rebounds. Jake Jarasinki with 15. And then a chance for Waterloo to get back on track after their home opening loss their road loss to Palmac in their opener. They host Wayne, and it was the first game for Wayne. Waterloo was up early, but Wayne eventually took control behind 18 from Mason Blankenberg and 16 from Tyler Reynolds. And they got the win. So now Waterloo's 0-2, Newark's 0-2 in the East. And then this next game coming up was highly interesting. Palmac and Minders 1-0 heading into this contest at Arthur L. Baker. And Minders escapes with a 1-point victory. Maybe you saw the highlight. Nick Jones hitting a deep three-pointer. Down 2, a true buzzer beater as the time expired to win by 1. And, on this show we talk about Minders a little more closely, and maybe Waterloo too, because we're so local. So when we're out in the community talking to high school basketball, we're talking to a lot of Minders fans. We're talking to a lot of Waterloo fans. And then we've seen these kids grow up sometimes at a pretty intimate level. And so sometimes these teams get a little more analysis. And, my analysis was Minders got very fortunate to escape this game. Palmac went 1 of 6 from the free throw line in the final minute of the fourth quarter just to set up the opportunity for Nick Jones to hit that shot. Now, Minders wasn't really knocking him down from the free throw line either. But, geez, Palmac just makes one more of these, free throw down the stretch in the last minute, and they start 2-0. But instead, Minders starts 2-0. Troy Cabot had 26 points. Nick Jones had 11, including that three-pointer at the buzzer. Paul Goodness led Palmac with 15. Moving ahead now to Friday night. And you see Sodas get on the board with a win against Marion. Lions rolling over Williamson, 22 from Tootie Smith, 14 from J.C. Walker. Troy Ingram had 16 for Williamson. Patsy Catalano had 15. Hey, if you do the math, you'll see that between Ingram and Catalano, that's 31 points. You'll see the final score for Williamson, 33. Who had the other bucket? You guessed it, Andrew Brennan. Clyde Savannah on the road at North Rose Wolcott defeated the Cougars 81-47, and I should have mentioned this off that first North Rose Wolcott game. Congratulations, Quentin Norris, 1,000 points on the opening night of the season on Monday. 1,000 points for Quentin Norris. He joins his brother in the 1,000-point club, Tyler Norris, who graduated a few years ago. So the Norris family can display those commemorative basketballs in their living room if they want. Pretty cool to have a couple of brothers both in the 1,000-point club. And think about it, Quentin Maiden, if they didn't play this season, he's not in the 1,000-point club, and that's unfair. It's even unfair to some kids who might not get the full 20-game regular season here to score those points, but at least they're in the game now. So congrats, Quentin, on that achievement. And then I thought Gananda could be the one team that could maybe upset Lions and sneak in for a share of that Wayne County title. But they were stunned by East Rochester at home. We saw that start the East Rochester got out to. I would have thought Gananda would roll in this game against East Rochester. And this is a huge rivalry game. Again, less fans in the gymnasium. It doesn't feel quite as intense, but if you watched that webcast, it was pretty intense. There was a late hard foul that resulted in a double technical after there was some retaliation Andrew Gabbard hits a three-pointer with about 4 seconds left to pull it within one. East Rochester able to close it out in a pretty stunning loss for the Blue Panthers. Both these teams in Class C1 as well, with Marcus Whitman and Lions. So that's a pretty interesting wrinkle. And then we can take a look at last night. Mid Lakes opening up in the Finger Lakes West at Bloomfield. Bloomfield wins 60-40. Mid Lakes playing in the Finger Lakes West because Marcus Whitman's playing in the Finger Lakes East. So they worked that out, and it'd be interesting to see, how Mid Lakes would compete in the West. And not a great start, not losing by 20 at Bloomfield. And Sean Farrell led the way for the Bombers with 13. And now here comes Pelmac into Newark. Pelmac's 1-1. They could have easily been 2-0 if that Nick Jones shot didn't fall at Minders, or if they made a couple free throws late. And Newark 0-2 heading into this one. I mentioned they're shorthanded. And Pelmac gets the win. So now Pelmac's 2-1, Newark's 0-3. Can Newark turn this thing around, get in the top 8 of sectionals? Newark is a team that can win a Class B1 sectional championship this year. When they're healthy, they certainly have the talent. They got great front court. Their guards need to improve, I think, but it's a new backcourt, so you wouldn't be surprised to see them need a few games to get going. Braden Steve is putting up some points. Isaiah Camp is blocking shots and getting rebounds. They need Rayshawn Howard back. They were also missing Jacob Sides yesterday. But big win for Pelmac. Huge win for Pelmac. Can you imagine now, so after that buzzer beater at Minders, instead of being 2-0, they're 1-1. If they lose at Newark, which many expected them to, they'd be 1-2. But now they're 2-1. When we look at the standings, you'll see what a difference that win made, obviously. And then this was one that I was looking forward to. Minders at Marcus Whitman. Again, Whitman trying to stake their claim in the East. Minders coming off that, stealing that win from Pelmac, had a chance to go into Marcus Whitman and really make a claim for that they were Finger Lakes East contenders. But, at the end of the day, Whitman was too strong. And Whitman looks more experienced, more cohesive than Minders. And they won 53-47. Jordan Leahy with 18 points, Noah Hildreth with 12, Ryan Harrod with 9. Minders was led by Nick Jones and Troy Cabot with 12 apiece. And surprise, Minders, Whitman's got a kid named Aiden Royston who they're going to put on your top on a kid like Troy Cabot, and it was no surprise Troy had his lowest output of the season. But when I look, I'm going to talk about this Minders team and the Whitman team a little bit in a second. But also yesterday, this was exciting to see South Seneca and Romulus boys square off in a game that I think for the first time in a while really had some league title implications and postseason implications. And South Seneca remained undefeated with the win despite 17 points from freshman Mike Kaufman and Romulus. Nick Hauk and Ira Amon getting it done again, 23 for Hauk, 13 for Amon. And, South County boys basketball is on the rise. Great to see this one, and South Seneca boys looking pretty good. I know Dave Barnick's got to be happy. Then you got HAC beating Naples 54-43. Max Brown with 17 points and 9 rebounds. Owen Tyndall, 5.6 rebounds, 6 assists. Quinn Hartman, 12.7 rebounds. Solid HAC squad. And, of course, Ryan Lester lighting it up again for Naples with 26 points and 9 rebounds. Ben Green had 11 rebounds. And then another opportunity, first we got Wayne beating Penn Yan pretty easily in Wayne. So when you're looking at who's the best teams in Wayne in the East, Wayne, yeah. Geneva, yeah. Whitman, it looks like. Can Minders or Newark or Pelmac? I don't know. We'll take a look at those standings in a second. But also looking here, rematch. Normally this would have been a game that was just so hyped up in a normal season. Waterloo at Geneva, rematch of last year's sectional final. But no problem for Coach Desring's Panthers and Devin Martin. They win 75-58 to send Waterloo to 0-3 and Geneva to 2-0. And then you see today there is a game, Dundee at Honeoye. Probably tipping in about an hour here. So anyway, excuse me. Full slate of action. That's what weeks look like now. Lots of games. We'll show you what next week looks like for the boys in a second, but I want to take a look at how some of these standings are stacking up for the boys after a full week of play. Now look at these standings. We got your normal league standings, wins, loss, games back, but then this year we've added, we've put what class they're in, and then their sectional points, and then their seed, their current seed. If the season were in today, what would they be seeded? And if your number is higher than 8 in the seed column, that means you're on the outside looking in. I mean, you're going to be, and if you're anywhere between 5 and 10, you're on the bubble. You got to be in it to win it. So that'll be an important column to keep an eye on the podcast here and in our nightly reports on Finger Lakes 1. Where is their current seed? And in sectional points, you see negative points. For the boys, you have wins, you get points, losses, you lose the same amount of points that you would have won. And it's based on your class. So as you see, Marcus Whitman as a C school, they get 6 points, I believe, for every B school they beat. And they won 3 games. They got 18 points. They beat 3 B schools. B1, B2 doesn't matter. If you're in B, that's 6 for Marcus Whitman. When they play Geneva, they'll have an opportunity to earn 7 points. So they're number 1 seed right now in C1, as you can see. Geneva, on the other hand, when they get a win against any of these B schools, they only get 4 points. And I think when they beat Whitman, if they beat Whitman, they only get 3 points. So tougher, I suppose, for Geneva, but it's because of school size. So Geneva, you would figure, bigger school, should be able to field a better basketball team than Marcus Whitman traditionally, just because of the pool of players. But we all know that school size isn't the only determining factor in a quality basketball team. You only need 5 kids that can play to have a pretty good team. And speaking of good teams, there's Geneva and Wayne. We were expecting them both to be tough to beat this year, and they both started out 2-0. And then you get, so look, we got Geneva, Wayne, Marcus Whitman going to be contending for the title. When Marcus Whitman plays Geneva or Wayne, that's going to be great. When Geneva and Wayne play on February 20th, that's going to be great. But can Minders, Pelmac, Newark, Waterloo, or Penyank, and any of them? I mean, when you're 3 back already for these 0-3 teams, probably not going to win a league title. But can you come back and beat some of the teams at the top of the East? Because you're going to have to get enough sectional points to be a top 8 seed. But that Minders, Pelmac game the other night was really eye-opening. First of all, how good Pelmac is. And then Minders, seeing them go to Marcus Whitman, I think Minders maybe a little deeper than Marcus Whitman. A little bigger. But, yeah, they lost. When I watch this Minders team, I don't know if anybody has their roles, if they're comfortable with their roles yet, or if they know what their roles are. There was a lot of subbing in, a lot of guys coming in and out, between Bogart, Jaden Key up on JVs, and Thomas Santana. They got some interior players, but none of those 3 established themselves in any games I've seen this week yet is the go-to guy inside. We know Troy Jackrabbit Cabot's going to be filling up a lot of points as well, but he was kind of inconsistent against Marcus Whitman. Credit to Royston. But then you need guys like Jared King step up and hit shots as a senior and to score the basketball. You need guys coming off the bench like Samuel Lorenzetti and Dylan Rizza. You got another senior in Jake Smith. There's so many guys on this team for Coach Prain. I just don't watching it. I'm like, what are each one of these guys' roles? And if you're going to have a situation where one of them's playing a lot one game and not the next, are they going to be comfortable with that and accept that as their role? This Minders team could be very good. This Minders team can win a sectional title, no doubt, in B2, no doubt. But, watching them struggle to that win and basically steal it from Pelmac late at home and then go on the road and lose to a really good Whitman team, although a team that I think that Minders maybe was more physically imposing then. And to see the way that they kind of lost to, considering the game was pretty balanced, at the end of the third quarter with like 3 seconds left, Marcus Whitman runs an out-of-bounds play that ends up in a wide-open layup. That was disconcerting if you're a Minders fan, just because it was such a tight game. Minders took a 3-point lead in the half. Marcus Whitman comes out in the second half on a 7-0 run. So, some work to do, I think, in Minders, and some work to do in Pelmac. I keep talking about how Minders stole it from Pelmac, but Pelmac, you had a chance to start 2-0 in the Finger Lakes East and be right up there with Geneva and Wayne. They did bounce back with that, win at Newark. But, that one loss there, that could haunt them for a while. But really good competition in the Finger Lakes East this year. Let's hope that Newark gets their guys back. Let's hope that Coach Darnell and Waterloo pulls it together. And I think you're going to see improvement from Penn Yan throughout the year as well. In a perfect world, you'd like to see all these teams are all able to qualify for sectionals. But it is kind of unfair because a team like Penn Yan, who maybe if they played in another league could garner enough sectional points to be top 8. But here in the Finger Lakes East, they're underdogs almost every game. So it's going to be tough to get those sectional points. Finger Lakes West boys. South Seneca, look at them, 2-0. Top of the league. I personally, after 1 week, think that they're the favorites to hold on. I think that Dundee Bradford, is going to be a challenger to South Seneca. I think that Bloomfield could be as well. Don't know much about Honeoye. Honeoye, post your roster on the league site, would you please? So we can know who's on your team. I don't have much to say about Honeoye because couldn't find their. Maybe I'm going to watch them when this podcast ends, if I can find their live stream. But got to get your roster up there so we at least know who's on the team. And Romulus boys are improved. They should be able to contend despite losing to South Seneca. It was a 10-point game. Mid-Lakes did not look good against Bloomfield, but they're going to have plenty of opportunities for redemption. Naples has had a rough go of it so far this season, as has Red Jacket with a ton of losses for Red Jacket to graduation. And then Wayne County, Lions at the top. No surprise there. I would have thought that Gananda would have got through this week at 3-0 as well. Maybe setting up a game with Lions where Gananda could have pulled the upset and had a shot to win this league. Lions already beat Clyde, who's at 2-1. East Rochester bounces back. Now on these standings, you aren't going to see that out-of-league game against Livonia reflected, because I wasn't thinking that anybody's playing out-of-league games, first of all. But second of all, this is league standings. And so East Rochester in C1 with Gananda, with Sodus, with Marcus Whitman, with Lions. And it should be some great games coming up in Wayne County. Now, I've already gone way over I'm about to go over our allotted time of 1 hour. This is going to be a long edition of the Upstate Hoops podcast because we do have to get everything, and it is an extended week. So, you know what? I'm going to just take another short break. Whoop, didn't want to do that. I'm going to take another short break. I'm going to take another step aside for hear from our sponsors once more. When we come back, we'll be looking at the girls. Then we'll show you the power rankings. And then we'll show you the week ahead. It's a long show. It's the Upstate Hoops Podcast. I'm Jim Sinicropi. Thanks for being alongside with me Sunday morning. We're recapping high school basketball, Wayne Finger Lakes High School basketball here on FingerLakes1.com. Keep it right here.
Generations Bank is celebrating 150 years of serving and supporting our hometowns. Visit mygenbank.com for the best choices in checking, savings, home equities, mortgages, and much more. Generations has been the Finger Lakes Bank since 1870. Generations Bank, member FDIC. Dr. Littlejohn, Dr. Barbie, and their outstanding orthodontic team share a common goal to ensure the overall wellness of each of their patients through their exceptional orthodontic care. Dr. Rod Littlejohn and Dr. Liz Barbie are proud to support our area high school athletes. Check out Dr. Rod and Dr. Liz online at littlejohnortho.com.
DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info. DISANTO Propane.com or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574 today. DeSanto. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane.
At FingerLakes1.com, we have always pledged to you to bring the most comprehensive local news coverage, access to timely information, and a locally focused, entertaining media option. Support FingerLakes1.com and help us bring you more great local sports coverage like this by visiting patreon.com/FL1.
And welcome back inside the FingerLakes1.com Mechanic Street studio. As we're heading into hour 2 of the Upstate Hoops Podcast here on a Sunday morning. Glad you could be with me. Time to look at some results from the girls side of things this week. We just ran through the boys. We're going to run through the girls. We're going to give you our updated power rankings. And then we're going to look at the week ahead in both boys and girls basketball. So let's get to it, so we can finish this thing before dinner. On the girls' side, the Clyde Savannah girls are a team that I'm really excited to see this year. 74-21 opening win against Sodus. Was really anticipating Clyde and Lions having some great matchups this year on the girls' side. But when Lions took the court for their first game since losing in the sectional final last year at North Rose Wolcott, I was a little shocked at this one. North Rose with a fairly easy 61-49 win. But then you realize, hey, North Rose Wolcott, this is a legit team. Alicia Waterman, I believe the sister of Noah Waterman, currently Division I basketball player playing at Detroit College for Mike Davis. 24 points. And there's a familiar name in North Rose as well, Ava Norris with 13, Mercedes Crum with 11. And Jay LaBelle, the 8th grader, in her season opener, 11 points and 7 rebounds. Abby Gravino had 10, and Caitlin McDonald with 10 points and 9 rebounds. A little surprised, but when you look a little closer, not shocked. The Wayne County Girls League's pretty good this year. And I think the best team right now in Wayne County for the girls is East Rochester, led by Zoe Zoots. They got a 20-point win over Williamson in their opener. Zoe had 19. Samantha Lewis had 16. And then moving ahead to the East opener on Tuesday night, the East and West openers, the Mid-Lakes girls back. This is a really solid Mid-Lakes team led by Kara Walker, her younger sister, Callie Walker. 82-19 all over Newark. Callie Walker led the way with 16. Kara had 11 points, 11 rebounds. Grace Murphy had 14. Mary Givens, 10 points and 12 rebounds. So it's not just the Walker sisters. This is a program, obviously, as we saw them make the run to Hudson Valley Community College 2 years in a row. And then a little down last year, it looks like they're going to be a legit contender in the East and in Class B1 this year. Then you got a really solid, I think, Penn Yan team making their debut at Minders and coming out with a 38-30 win. The Waterloo girls, this opening night in girls basketball, Finger Lakes East girls basketball, was amazing because Waterloo-Pelmac, what a rivalry last year they were as they battled. And I expected a really tight game here, but man, this group of Waterloo Lady Indians under Coach Mike Bree is tough. A lot of pressure, up and down. They can score, play great defense. 48-28 win over Pelmac. A little surprised at that margin. Jasmine Lewis led the way with 14. Freshman Morgan Carballo with 12. And Allie Smith with 7. Marcus Whitman girls, they got a new head coach. Liz Royston, you may remember her from the bench of the boys team as an assistant. Also mother of Aiden Royston on the boys team. She's taken over the girls program from Bri Parzak. And great start, 64-18 win at Honeyway. Great to see the Honeyway girls back with a program. You remember last year that some of the girls on the team actually played on the boys team because the girls didn't have a team at Honeyway last year. But Marcus Whitman with the opening win. And then the Red Jacket girls, they've had some big losses too over the past few years to graduation. Sydney Close, before that Sarah Van Aken. But they get the win over HAC, a good HAC team, 39-34. Mary English with 12 for Red Jacket, Ashley Reed with 11. And for HAC, keep an eye on Liza Nicosia. She had 16 points in this one, but one of the better players in Wayne County for sure. So one of the better players in the Finger Lakes West for sure. But moving ahead to Wayne County on Wednesday night, the Williamson girls with a nice win over Sodus. And then the Route 31 rivalry on the girls' side, I told you how excited I was for it, and it didn't disappoint. But the Clyde Savannah Lady Golden Eagles with a 3-point win, 49-46. Jada Larson, in her sophomore year, 16 points. Ashlyn Rattray with 14. Kylie Paler with 11. Really good group for Steve Dunn in Clyde. And for Lions, Jayla Bell, again, just an 8th grader, 16 points, 9 rebounds. Caitlin McDonald, 8 points, 9 rebounds. Alicia Morrison, 7 points, 11 rebounds. So disappointing, obviously, opening week for Coach Bassett's Lions, Lady Lions, and a big win here to avenge that loss in this Class C3 semifinals last year. C2 semifinals? C3? At Canandaigua High School, the game that went to overtime that saw Lions defeat Clyde. But, of course, Caden Crago for Lions and Taylor Sharp for Clyde Savannah, two of the key actors in that game, graduated, but plenty of talent left on both sides. Should be fun to watch them both play out the rest of the season. And then East Rochester Red Creek. I'm not sure if Izzy Wilbur played in the early games for Red Creek this week. And this first game is against East Rochester. But I like Red Creek this year. But obviously East Rochester is pretty dominant. It was Lily Funk in this one for the Bombers with 20 points. Zoe Zoots with 12 points, 10 rebounds. Nevaeh Johnson with 8. Samantha Lewis, 8.6 assists. And then for Red Creek, Jesse Bolton had 12. Mackenzie Ferguson had 9. And North Rose Wolcott goes to Gananda and makes another case that they're one of the top teams in the Wayne County with a 52-42 win over Coach Karen Mewison's Gananda Lady Blue Panthers. Wayne versus Geneva in the East played on Tuesday night. And this was a game that if you went back 3-4 years, they were just battles atop the Finger Lakes East girls. But both teams kind of in rebuild mode. But Wayne does get the win 28-21. And then the Bloomfield Lady Bombers go to Romulus and get a 45-27 win. Moving ahead to Wednesday night with just a gigantic slate. As you see here, HAC beats Bloomfield 32-21, thanks to 15 from Eliza Nicosia. The Honeoye girls, that's got to be their first win in a long time, seeing they didn't have a program last year, 32-29 at Red Jacket. And then here's the team in the West that is going to be tough to beat. Dundee Bradford beating Marcus Whitman 47-40, and this is a really good Marcus Whitman team. As we saw, they won their opener. They got Maddie Ryan's a senior. Katie Deathridge had 19 in this one, but the losing effort to Dundee / Bradford, combining with Bradford to get the numbers. Kendall Parker with 15, Jillian Underhill with 13, and Haley Knapp with 9. This Dundee team is tough on the girls' side. South Seneca, though, also tough. This was a great win. We would expect them to beat Naples, but Naples has a really good player in Autumn Coons, and this was a South Seneca team that really struggled last year after just a dominant run throughout most of the decade, and got to hand it there's been a coaching change. So Charity Couch, new head coach for South Seneca, athletic director Heather Mott stepping aside after that great run, and this program was amazing over the past several years, going 3 times to Hudson Valley Community College for the state Final Four. But South Seneca looking like a chance to win a sectional title, a chance to win the Finger Lakes West. Really good team this year. Emma Fletcher, 17. You got the Fletcher triplets back. Logan Chalice with 15. Anybody from South Seneca recognizes that name. And Logan, I believe this is her senior year. Good start for South Seneca, and good start for the new regime there. Mid-Lakes girls, Penn Yan, probably one of the more highly anticipated games of the night. Mid-Lakes takes care of business, 49-37 against Penn Yan. Kara Walker had 20 points in that one. And moving ahead to Geneva and Newark. Newark gets a nice win for Coach Flad and company behind 22 points from Isabel Robson, 7 apiece from Michaela Colasino and Sienna Galvin. So Newark gets a win. And then the Waterloo girls all over Wayne, 92 points. They had 51 at the half. I watch a lot of girls basketball games. I don't see many teams score 51 and a half. That's a clip for 100. And keep in mind, these games, so one half of basketball is 16 minutes. So Waterloo firing on all cylinders in that game. Giovanna White-Principio in the middle there, 19 points. Caraballo, 16. Macy Carr, 13. Mackenzie Barber, 12. This Waterloo team, pretty special. We won't know. I mean, there's a long way to go. They might not even win the Finger Lakes East. There's a couple teams that have something to say about it, but sectional favorites, and still young enough where next year when the state tournament's back, that might be something we want to keep an eye on. Pell Mac bounces back against Minders with a 53-27 win. East Rochester out of league against Livonia with a win. And she's got Canandaigua and Victor in there for you as well. Those are not Wayne Finger Lakes teams, although they certainly are local. Moving ahead to Friday night, Red Creek with a big win over Sodus. Jesse Bolton leading the way with 21. Izzy Wilbur did pop up in the box score, 6 points, 9 assists. Izzy's a 2,000-point scorer at Red Creek. And then Lions finally on the board with a win, defeating a solid Williamson team, 57-39, thanks to 16 points and 11 rebounds from Caitlin McDonald, and 14 for Jayla Bell, 12 from Riley DeCola, and 9 from Amani Harder. For Williamson, Regan Mangos, 20 points. Katie Newby, 17 points. So that's a good win for Lions. That Williamson girls team is solid. And then this was the game of the night on Friday night. A couple of undefeated teams, North Rose Wolcott and Clyde Savannah, clash in Clyde. Now, really impressed that Clyde pulled this one out, 53-44. And then East Rochester Bombers defeat Gananda 64-30 behind 19 points and 10 rebounds from Zoe Zoots and 15 points and 13 rebounds from Samantha Lewis. Saturday, just yesterday, Marcus Whitman with a big league win against Bloomfield, 48-24, led by 13 from Maddie Ryan. And I was really excited to see this because I thought that the Romulus girls team could be improved this year, and I thought this would be closer than it was. But, man, a statement win from South Seneca against their biggest rival at the Jack Guinan Gymnasium yesterday, 56-16. Wanted to see this one on the webcast, but there was no webcast. Hopefully they'll get something in order down there so we can see some live action from the Guinan Gymnasium, because it looks like the boys and the girls are going to be pretty solid. HAC with a win over Naples. Dundee Bradford looking really impressive against Honeoye. Jillian Underwood with 15 points in that one. Penyan over Wayne, 69-28. Palmac over Newark, 69-26. So it looks like Palmac has kind of righted the ship there. They did lose two of their best players last year in Andra Savage and Katie Smythe to graduation after losing in the sectional championship game, but they got some players back. Sophie Lyko, 20 points. Riley Trail bringing some height inside, 16 points. Tara Goodness, 12. Riley McPike, 8. So this Palmac team, despite that opening loss, is still going to play a factor here. And obviously one of their targets at the top of the East is going to be Waterloo. Another big win for Waterloo, 53-10 yesterday in Waterloo. And then there was the final game. I watched this one from my couch last night, actually from a kitchen counter as I was making some dinner, and my wife had it on in the living room on the big screen, so I was bouncing back in between. But Mid-Lakes with a win, 54-38. Mid-Lakes had built a lead of over 20 points. Actually, I think it even got up maybe close to 30. And then Minders came storming back in the second half. And it was really a freshman, Maddie Verke, who made some key three-pointers. She ended up with 12 points. But this Minders team over the past couple of years has struggled to score. And it was great to see Maddie Verke, the daughter of one of my good friends, Matt, and someone you've seen here on Finger Lakes One, in a color commentary capacity and in studio, and also in Seneca Falls. You know that name for sure, synonymous with basketball. And Maddie, just a freshman, really good player, and she stepped up and really helped bring her team back into this one with those three-pointers in the second half. So that was great to see. Haley Mosch, a sophomore. This team's going to come and go as Haley does on both ends of the court. She had 18 points in this one. But in the end, this is a good Mid-Lakes team. Carol Walker with 20 points, Kaylee with 10. But Minders in these games has kind of gotten off to slow starts, dug in themselves a deficit. I'd like to see them get off to a good start in some of these games, because I really think that this is a team that can get better. But can they get the sectional points to be in the top 8 of their class, playing in the tough Finger Lakes East? So that rounds up the week in girls basketball. And now it's time for our power rankings. You saw the action take place, tons and tons of games. Let's see how that kind of has affected the power rankings. And let's start with the girls. Of course, Waterloo's going to be number 1. They were the most impressive. They were number 1 last week. And then you've got Mid-Lakes at 2, and Palmac, despite that loss, or the opening loss, at 3. All B1 schools, all Finger Lakes East schools. So as these teams continue to play each other over the next 3 weeks in the regular season, very important games, obviously. Palmac at 3, as I said. Penyan at 4. And then the East Rochester Bombers up to 5, a Wayne County team kind of pushing their way up there with the Finger Lakes East teams. The Wayne Eagles at 6th, they did pick up a win, and this is where we have the issues, where is a team at the bottom of the Finger Lakes East or middle of the Finger Lakes East better than a team at the top of Wayne County or the Finger Lakes West? It's different every year. Not as much crossover games to make that determination this year, but East Rochester, I think, is legit. I think they're a team that could compete in the Finger Lakes East. Now, Clyde Savannah at 7. Could they compete in the Finger Lakes East? I don't know. Last year, I think it was last year, they lost to the Minders Lady Blue Devils pretty handily in Seneca Falls, but it is a new year. Clyde off to a great start. They're at 7. We'll see if they can push a little higher going forward, because then you go to Minders at 8. So Minders is an 0-3 team, but honestly, they've just played tougher competition than a lot of the other teams, and it is that question of, is a team like Minders, who's 0-3, would they be able to beat a team like Clyde or South Seneca if they played? And it's not all about that as well. You do have to just give some credence to the black and white, what's on the paper, wins and losses. So Minders at 8, despite the still looking for their first win, and a lot of that has to do with the way they responded to Mid Lakes yesterday in the second half. South Seneca Lady Falcons at number 9. They could keep rising. They seem to have some of the hallmarks of some of those great Heather Mott South Seneca teams, where they'll just be relentlessly beating their opponents, and they did that to their rival Romulus yesterday. They're at 9. Red Creek at 10. Dundee Bradford at 11. I could be underestimating this team. They could be higher next week. Marcus Whitman at 12. North Rose Wolcott with Leisha Waterman at 13. HAC with Eliza Nikoja at 14. And then Coach Kristen Bassett's Lions at 15. They could rise up, but they need to have a better week than they did here in their opener, going 1-2 in the opening week. So there's your girls. How about your boys? This is tough. Lions is number 1. Wayne's number 2. Lions might not lose a game this year. Before the pandemic, they were supposed to play each other this year, and you think we would have been excited for that one here at Finger Lakes 1, but not happening, obviously. Our Lions may be number 1 all year, although Lions could go undefeated and not look, with the eye test, as dominant as maybe we think Wayne or Geneva or even Marcus Whitman looks. So it's not guaranteed that they're going to stay at 1, but they might not lose this year, so it's kind of tough to relinquish the top spot when you keep winning. But this is what's interesting at top of the Finger Lakes East. Wayne, Geneva, Marcus Whitman, right now all undefeated and all in the top 2, 3, 4 spots in our power rankings. And then you got the Minders Blue Devils at 2-1 by the skin of their teeth at 2-1 at 5. Pelmac at 6, and you can see why that buzzer beater, obviously if that didn't go in, Pelmac would be 5, maybe 4, and Minders would be 6, or maybe 7 or 8 or 9. So one shot can really swing things as far as the power rankings go here. And then, of course, Gananda with a tough loss, still able to hold on to number 7. East Rochester didn't look like they were going to be anywhere near these power rankings, but they did with that win against Gananda. Pretty impressive on the road. They're at 8. Newark, despite being winless, at 9, partly because we know that they're missing some key players that we do expect back, and an advantage really for the teams that have played them so far not to have to deal with Rashawn Howard. Clyde Savannah at 10. Cam Chance had an amazing dunk. You could see it on Twitter if you haven't already. Waterloo, disappointing start. Still looking for their first win at 11. South Seneca boys, the opposite of Waterloo. They're off to a great start. But again, what would happen if Waterloo and South Seneca played? Well, unfortunately, we aren't going to see it this year. But if South Seneca keeps looking as impressive as they have in this first week, they'll pop into the top 10 next week. I can pretty much guarantee you that if they have another week like they had this week. Penn Yan boys, Again, tough schedule in the East. They come in at 13, Bloomfield at 14. And Williamson, the Williamson Marauders, it's been a few years since we've seen them near the power rankings. They come in at 15. And again, power rankings used to be 10. We've expanded them to 15 just so we can kind of sort out some of these other teams here. There's 27 teams in the Wayne Finger Lakes Boys and Girls League, so you're getting a little more than half now in our power rankings. So, wow. Long show this morning. Now about 80 minutes into it, and hey, I'm in my basement right now. I'm if you can't tell, I'm kind of reclined. Just comfortable talking high school basketball with you. Miss having student athletes in the studio for the podcast, but things will get back to normal. But for now, I'm going to be sitting here in my basement. Maybe that's why the show is going longer, because I'm just relaxing here on a Sunday morning talking high school basketball with you. So let's jump ahead and actually, I think I neglected to take a quick run through the girls' standings. Let's do that real quick. In the Finger Lakes East, Mid Lakes at 3-0 and Waterloo at 3-0. They play Monday night, tomorrow night. So that's going to be a great game. The Finger Lakes West standings, Dundee, South Seneca, looking like the class of the West. Whitman's going to get their shot. HAC is going to get their shot at Dundee. I think they might have already lost South Seneca. And that's how the West standings look. And again, you got to look at that seed column in the right. If that number is under 8, that means they're currently in sectionals. Over 8, and they would currently not qualify for sectionals. So let's look at Wayne County. East Rochester 3-0, Clyde Savannah 3-0. That's going to be a great showdown. North Rose looking good this year, despite that loss to Clyde, just one game back. Red Creek could contend. Williamson improved. Lyons hopes to get back towards the top of the standings there in Wayne County. And again, you see Lyons on that seed line at 8. They're right on the bubble, as is Williamson and Red Creek, and even Gananda still. You got to get that seed to 8 or lower if you want to be in sectionals this year. So let's now take a look at the week ahead. Let's start on the girls' side, since we just talked about girls, and then we'll go to the boys and show you the games that are coming up. Where is it here? Let's go right here. Excuse me. So what's today's date? The 14th. That means tomorrow's the 15th. And let's take a look at the week ahead. Again, this is the girls' side. Monday night, tomorrow night, our Wayne Finger Lakes High School Game Night Live production is going to be the best. I mean, we've been waiting for a night like this where we're just going to be bouncing between games. We might have a lot of close games, but there's so many games of implication on the boys and girls side. Looking at the girls here, Naples at Honeyway, South Seneca at HAC. So a test on the road for South Seneca. I mentioned Eliza Nicosia for HAC. Let's see if South Seneca can continue to look as dominant as they have in the first week of play. Marcus Whitman's going to be tested at Romulus. Romulus desperately needs a win. Red Jacket at Bloomfield. Pelmac at Geneva. Penn Yan at Newark. Minders at Wayne. And then the big one, Waterloo at Mid Lakes. Both 2-0 in the East, squaring off at Mid Lakes. And when you see a team like Waterloo that looks so good, you want to see them tested. You want to see, okay, how are they going to look against another good team like Mid Lakes? And so both teams are going to be tested. Both teams are B1. So if Waterloo goes in there and wins by 30 points, that's disheartening looking ahead to sectionals for Mid Lakes. On the other hand, if Mid Lakes wins this game or even keeps it close, then anything's possible. Move ahead to Tuesday on the girls' side. Marion at Lions. Chance for Lions to continue moving back up the standings, Williamson at North Rose Wolcott. That should be interesting. Williams is going to need to beat one of these top teams, I think, if they're going to want to be a top 8 school in Class B2. I think they're B2 at North Rose Wolcott, who's also B2. Clyde Savannah at Gananda, and East Rochester at Sodus. And then on Wednesday night, more Finger Lakes East-West action. Romulus at Red Jacket, HAC at Marcus Whitman, Honeyway at South Seneca, Dundee at Naples, and then Minders has to go to Waterloo. Big rivalry game. This was a rivalry that both on the boys and girls side, Minders had done pretty well in until recent years. On the girls side, last year was rough. Waterloo really took them to the woodshed a couple games last year. We'll see how it pans out in Waterloo on Wednesday night in front of no fans. And then Wayne at Newark. Important game for Coach Flad to get a win there against a team that, actually for both these teams are going to struggle against the top teams in the East. So when you get a chance to play a team that's more on your level, you got to win those games. So not a game with league championship implications by any means, but I think a game that both teams really need to win if they want to have any shot at postseason this year. Geneva at Penn Yan, and then another tough game for Mid-Lakes at Palmyra Macedon. So Mid-Lakes could emerge from this week, as the team to beat, or they can kind of slip back. So it's going to be an interesting week for Coach Nate Rich and his program. Going ahead to Thursday. Is this Thursday or this Friday? Friday the 18th, right? Or Thursday. Let me just look at my calendar here. No, this will be Thursday night in Wayne County. North Rose at Marion, Clyde at Williamson, Sodus at Gananda, and then Lions at East Rochester should be a really good one. And then we also have Dundee at HAC. This is the following night in Naples at Romulus, South Seneca at Bloomfield, Marcus Whitman at Red Jacket, Palmac at Wayne, Penn Yan at Waterloo. Waterloo's going to be tested this week. Penn Yan's pretty solid. And then Newark at Minders, chance for the Blue Devils to pick up a win, and another one of those games that really must wins for these teams in the middle to the bottom half of the standings that are trying to qualify for sectionals. And then Geneva at Mid-Lakes. So, with that said, we need to now jump over and just take a look at the boys' week ahead. And there's some really good games here. Spoiler alert, coming up on the boys' side. So let's jump right into that. And Marcus Whitman at Waterloo. Yeah, all these Marcus Whitman games are really interesting to me, being the first year in the East. Waterloo really needs a win. Marcus Whitman wants to continue. It's going to have to keep winning if they're going to want to continue to contend for that East title. Wouldn't that be amazing, coming into the East as Marcus Whitman is a C1 team and winning a league championship after basically owning the Finger Lakes West for the 3-4 years leading into last year where they were independent? It's a tall order, but they're in position to have a shot. Wayne at Minders. Huge game for Minders. Big game for Wayne, too. I think Wayne's going to be expected to win that game. I know Minders has the talent to beat Wayne in Seneca Falls. That's going to be a great game to watch on Monday. Monday night is going to be awesome on our Game Night Live webcast. If you haven't seen it yet, Monday night will be the night to check it out, because you're not going to want to miss the action at all the other gymnasiums. You're not going to want to tune into just one game, or maybe you do, obviously, if you have a rooting interest in one particular game. But you can also two-screen it. A lot of people two-screening it. One game up on the TV, another one up on the tablet or laptop. Our game night stream, might want to think about two-screening it. Newark's at Penn Yan. Oh, man, I keep looking at these games in the Finger Lakes East, and they're all big. I should stop saying it's a big game because they're all big. Hopefully, Rashawn Howard's back for Newark. Geneva at Palmac. Geneva, one of the top teams. Palmac, are they going to continue to surprise? Are they going to be able to beat a team like Geneva or Wayne? From what I've seen, I think so. I think they'll have a shot. A lot could happen on Monday night in the Finger Lakes East. And in the West, Honeoye at Naples, HAC at South Seneca, Bloomfield at Red Jacket, and Romulus at Mid Lakes. That's right, Romulus at Mid Lakes, a D1 school, D2 school at a B1 school. Moving ahead to Tuesday night in the boys, Lions, Marion. I think that game's off the book. I don't think they're putting a line on that one. North Rose Wolcott at Williamson, Gananda at Clyde. That's going to be a great game. Sodus at East Rochester should also be a good game, but that Gananda-Clyde game should be fantastic with some of the players involved between Cam Chance and Jada McKinney and Jerry Brongo and Andrew Gabbard. Should be a really good game. Then Wednesday night, West and East back in action. Red Jacket at Romulus, Mid Lakes at HAC, Naples at Dundee, and then in the East, Penn Geneva, South Seneca at Honeoye in the West, Waterloo at Minders. Now there you go. That gets your blood pumping. Newark at Wayne, another marquee East matchup, and Palmac at Marcus Whitman. Palmac's going to Marcus Whitman. It seems like a bizarro world. But that's going to be a huge game for both teams, too. As I said, they're all big in the East this year. It's great. And then the next night, Marion at North Rose, Williamson at Clyde. That could be that could go either way. Gananda at Sodus, East Rochester at Lions. And then moving ahead one more night, Romulus at Naples, HAC at Dundee, Marcus Whitman at Geneva. Bloomfield at South Seneca. Could be a game with league title implications in the West. Waterloo at Penn Yan. Minders at Newark. I mean, are you kidding me with the East this year? Red Jacket at Mid Lakes. Wayne at Palmac. That's a rivalry game with implications this year. I mean, are you looking at these Finger Lakes East lineups each night here as I'm going through the schedule? You paying attention? They're all big. All the games are big. And then on February 20th, Saturday night, hey, that'll be my 49th birthday. I'll be 49 on 2/20. And that's not a joke that people say when they're 55 or 65 or whatever. They say, I'm 49. I actually am going to be 49 on Saturday, which is not something that's too thrilling to myself. But, hey, I can take it in watching some high school basketball. Honeoye at Mid Lakes. And then, so not many games on this slate. But let me tell you something. These are important games. Dundee, South Seneca, a huge game in the West. Geneva at Wayne, maybe the game in the East. And that was originally rescheduled. So, Geneva at Wayne, and they do a great job with the webcast in Wayne as well. So that'll be one that'll be worth popping the popcorn, maybe having a little birthday cake, and kicking back and watching it live. As I mentioned, it's a lot of fun this year, and although I know it's frustrating for a lot of people not to be able to be in the gyms, it's certainly frustrating for us. And even just as a general interest fan, say, you know what, I'm gonna go to Newark and just check this game out tonight, or I'm gonna go to Mid Lakes and check out this game and pay the $2 or sometimes nothing and watch a great high school basketball game live in a full gymnasium with lots of fans and cheerleaders. And that's not the case this year, but glass half full, any game you want, comfort of your own home every night. Or tune into Game Night Live on FingerLakes1.com and let me take you around the league, jump from game to game. You'll never miss anything. You'll see all the great finishes, and you'll hear amazing commentary like this in case you haven't heard me discuss something that you maybe wanted me to discuss in the last 95 minutes I've been on the air here from my basement on Mechanic Street in Seneca Falls, talking high school hoops with you. this type of thing will continue on Game Night Live, happening Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I don't know if we'll do it Saturday or Friday this week with a smaller slate of games, but we'll decide, and we'll always make that announcement. So when you go to Finger Lakes 1 around 4 in the afternoon on any given day, you'll see the post for the Game Night Live. You'll open it up. You'll see we go live at 7:30, 7 o'clock, or in the case of Saturday afternoon, 1 o'clock, whatever it was, we post it there so you know. And then we have the list of games that night with links to each individual game live stream. So we're trying to make it easy for you to cover this stuff, to follow it yourself from home. It is really exciting. It's all happened so fast. We're already 25% of the way through the regular season. Every game counts in this short season. And as I said off the top, they're not going to put an asterisk next to your sectional banner when you hang it in the gym after you win it this year. It's going to be as legitimate as any other sectional banner that's hanging in that gym. And I'm glad that the kids have a chance to compete for it. So we're going to be with you every step of the way. Probably more than you've ever seen me in a high school basketball season, because I'm manning the control room here for our Game Night Live productions, and I've been having a lot of fun doing it, and I've gotten a lot of positive feedback, and I'm telling you, I promise we're going to improve on it for week 2, as there's so many great games, so should be awesome. Thanks for joining me on the Upstate Hoops Podcast. Connect with us on Twitter at Finger Lakes 1. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Also on Twitch. The Game Night Live stuff streaming on Twitch and Facebook. So you might want to like our page on Facebook, or if you're a Twitch user, look for our account, Finger Lakes 1, and follow us. So when we go live, you'll know we're live. I know there's a lot of Twitch users out there. Actually been great response to the fact that we're streaming that on Twitch. So our audio-only podcast available on iTunes and Stitcher.com, as well as other platforms like Spotify and Google Podcasts. Archive episodes are available at fingerlakes1.com, and this podcast airs weekly on Sunday night on Finger Lakes TV Spectrum Channel 1304. You can also find our show live stream games and local news, weather, and sports 24/7 on the free fingerlakes1.com Android or iPhone app. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you Monday night at 7:30 for Game Night Live. This has been the Upstate Hoops Podcast. I'm Jim Sinicropi. Have a great week, and good luck to everybody next week on the hardwood.